New this morning, President Trump announcing he plans to sign an executive order to end mail-in voting. He made the announcement earlier this morning on Truth Social. He claims mail-in ballots and voting machines are more susceptible to voter fraud, even though that evidence is limited. President Trump wants to pass the executive order before next year's midterm elections. Fox 13's John Hopperstad breaking it down this morning with the Seattle University professor. Good morning.
Yeah, Bill, good morning. I'm here with political science professor Patrick Shabner to talk about President Trump's announcement here. Thanks for being with us. Of course, Washington, one of several states that does have mail-in voting. And I think in the last election, presidential election, we were hovering around 78% voter turnout, which is pretty high across the nation. What would is this even legal for him to take this measure?
Well, I would tweak what you said a little bit first off. Washington is one of the few states with vote by mail only, but every state has some sort of absentee or vote by mail sort of provision. So this is something that would impact every state. But long story short, no, the president doesn't really have any authority on this at all. The Constitution specifically vests each state with control over the electoral system, although it does say Congress can pass laws that can influence rules around federal elections.
And right now, Republicans control both houses of Congress, Senate and House. Could they conceivably do this, pass something here and change this?
No, unless they killed the filibuster, they would need to get 60 votes. Democrats are not going to go along with this. It is possible they could try to blow up the filibuster over this, but I think if they were going to kill the filibuster, it'd be over something more significant than electoral reform.
Now, we've predicted a move like this before with Trump. He's talked about this in the past, but he's only floated the idea of requiring mail-in ballots to arrive on election days instead of just being postmarked. Is it fair to call today's announcement an overreach here of his power?
This is a drum he's been beating for a while. Interestingly, if you saw the interview he had after the meeting with Putin, he talked about talking about this with Putin, and I think this might be where that idea is coming from. This is definitely something that's not within presidential power, though.
Yeah, well, that alone to a lot of people would be kind of troubling if he's taking advice on elections from Vladimir Putin. It's not just President Trump, though. In the past, Republicans have expressed interest in getting rid of mail-in voting over election fraud concerns, and that comes up a lot. But are those concerns valid? Is there really any evidence out there that we have seen widespread election fraud through the mail?
No. The vote by mail does have concerns around it, but voter fraud is not one of them in particular. States that adopt vote by mail only in particular, like Washington, like Oregon, like California, have very robust checks. You know you have to sign it, and it's tested against historic signatures. You may have had your signature challenged in the past. So they have lots of obstacles to prevent fraudulent voting, and all the evidence we have suggests that it's almost non-existent.
The Secretary of States that we've had that oversee elections here in Washington, both Republican and Democrat, have said our system here, at least in Washington State with mail-in, is one of the safest and most viable voting systems in the country.
Yes, so the way we do it here in King County, which is the facility I'm most familiar with, all the machines that tabulate the votes are offline in a secured center in a facility designed by the same people who designed the safes in Las Vegas. So it is as secure a facility as we can have.
Now, we just talked about the presidential election. We had about 78% voter turnout. Midterm elections usually don't get as many voters as a presidential election, obviously. But do you believe this could significantly impact voter turnout this year?
Generally, when you threaten something that people like, people tend to react to that. So we could see, if there is a push towards curtailing vote by mail, we could see places that use vote by mail have a little bit of an uptick in turnout.
You believe that even if we did overturn voting by mail in our state, we'd still see a pretty good voter turnout because of the outrage that would create, right?
Well, outrage would be part of it, but also places like Washington that adopt vote by mail reform, they really care about getting people to show up to the vote. And so Washington has a long tradition of high voter turnout, and I think we would see that play out regardless of the voting mechanism we use.
All right, we will see what happens. Patrick, thanks again for being with us this morning.
Anytime.
Glad to have you.